days. You can now listen to each podcast with Alexa. It's simple and it's free. Just visit afr.net/apps and click Alexa. We're not joking. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Wildman. As the announcer just told you, today is January the 30th, 2024. I have a slightly better than average panel assembled here to talk to us. Ray Pritchard, I'm going to introduce you first in Kansas City.
I'm feeling you called us slightly above average. Okay, this is a good start.
That's better than being average.
That's better than being average. I'll take it. I'll take it every day.
And many listeners are going, this is coming from Tim.
Hey, I'm taking it.
All right. Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning, and I'm wondering, is there anything that we can do to move up?
To be slightly better?
You
mean, well, if you're slightly better than average.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with that.
Wesley wants to be way above average. I'm with you.
No, yes.
It's something to strive for.
That's right. Okay.
Something. Chris Woodward.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. As somebody that's below average height,
right.
I appreciate the comment.
What are you up
But
to?
they can't see that on radio. That can't be seen.
Chris.
Nobody would have known.
Well,
what are you 5? What are you 5?
I'm 5'6" on a good day with the right shoes. And matter of fact, my teenage daughter is taller than me and mentions that quite often. And I think my wife is also a little bit taller than me. And my youngest daughter, who's 10, going on 11, is probably about to pass me as well. So I'm about to be the shortest person in my house.
So you're going to be looking up at your daughter going,
you better come home at night.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, God made us all.
Yeah.
That's right.
Short, medium, and tall. How you like that?
Oh, that's good.
I just did that.
Well, nobody in here.
Natural.
Nobody in here is extremely tall. I mean, we're full of 5'10",
Ray's
5'11".
6'4", 6'5", aren't you, Ray? Something like that.
I was 6'4".
He's shrinking?
Now I'm about 6'3.5" now. That's the truth. I've come down about a half. They say if you live long enough, you start coming down a little bit. You know, the body starts
That's
to
not
settle.
good for me. Yeah.
The body starts to settle.
Yeah. You start short. A lot of people start shortening, but they start growing wider.
That's right. We expand in other areas.
Yes. All right. A lot to talk about today. Let me say Dr. Frank Turek will be along with us at 15 after. And then Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, will be on at the bottom of the hour. So we look forward to visiting with Brother Tony. Okay, so Wesley, tell folks how they can watch this here show, or they can, engage us here if they want to.
You can go to our Facebook page. That's Today's Issues Facebook page. You can also go to, and where I would point you to is AFR.net. That's AFR.net. You can catch our live video or our live audio there. Also, too, once you're there, in case you have to dip out for a meeting, or maybe you have to get out and go to the grocery store. If you miss anything, you can go to afr.net to catch our podcast. We archive the radio program there. I had a supporter, a donor of ours, text us yesterday, and they were trying to go back and listen to the radio program, the Bible teaching following this. And so any of our radio programs, you can go to afr.net in order to go back and re-listen to. And, of course, you can stop,
pause. The podcast?
The podcast. And, of course, you can fast forward there, too, so if you're trying to get to a particular topic. All of our producers do a wonderful job titling all of our podcasts. So if you're looking for something specific, you can go there and you'll be able to see the title of each podcast. And all of our content there is at afr.net. That's afr.net.
So if you missed this show or any of the shows on American Family Radio and you want to listen to them, go to afr.net. Click on podcast. It's right at the top, and then you can find your shows and the episode, if you will, that you
And of course, we have guests on regularly, like we're going to do today. And in the title there, we mention, if we have Jenna Ellis on or Tony Perkins or anybody on. So if you're looking to go back and listen to any legal advice that we've gone over as it relates to the border, Abe was on yesterday. We put that in the title.
All right, Chris, what's your first news story?
Well, we're watching for the U.S. response to that deadly drone attack on U.S. service members over in Jordan. We mentioned this attack yesterday on the program. For people that are not aware, at least 3 U.S. service members are dead, dozens more injured, or many more injured, I should say, after a drone attack in Jordan. There is a U.S. facility there called Tower 22. And for the last 24 hours or so, we've waited on some sort of response by the U.S. President Biden's response to that Jordan attack is likely to be powerful, but the U.S. says it's wary of triggering a wider war with Iran. And to that effect, I've got a soundbite from John Kirby, national security spokesman for the president, talking to reporters yesterday. Clip 1.
We are not looking to escalate the tensions any more than they already have been escalating. In fact, everything we've done has been designed to try to de-escalate those tensions. That said, this was a very serious attack. It had lethal consequences. We will respond, and we'll respond appropriately. I'm not going to telegraph what that's going to look like.
Let me ask you this about this. This was a military base that the U.S. operates inside Jordan, on the Jordanian-Syrian border, right?
Correct.
And then it's been explained that a drone was able to penetrate that base and bombed it. Okay, so we have 3 dead and many more, dozens maybe, who were injured of our soldiers. Then yesterday we talked about that the explanation was that this drone, that our U.S. military thought this drone was one of our own.
It was mistaken because it came in at the same time that our drone was supposed to return.
Am I the only one that thinks that's not good? That's a poor. That doesn't sound like the standard of the U.S. military.
And now they know how to attack again in the same way, assuming the policies remain.
So, Ray, it sounds like, did you hear this explanation we're talking about?
Yeah, and it's totally believable to me. Obviously, a terrible, what do you call it? It's a mishap.
Attack. You mean what happened?
What happened?
The fact that we didn't prevent it, you mean?
That's right.
Okay.
In other words, we saw the drone coming in.
Yeah.
It's not as if they caught the soldiers by surprise. The soldiers saw the drone coming in, but it was coming evidently. We don't know all the details, coming in on the same trajectory about the same time, and they thought it was, we had launched the drone, we'd sent it out on a mission, thought it was coming back, and that's a terrible case of mistaken identity, and now there are 3 soldiers dead and many, many more wounded. To me, that's believable, and it is a terrible result from something that you think it's friendly, right, Tim? You think it's a friendly drone coming back in, and all of a sudden the bombs are flying and people are dying.
Yes, and I am absolutely no military expert at all. This is a layman's understanding of what's going on, what happened there. Why I said what I said was, I would think we have the technology to distinguish between our drone and an enemy drone as it gets near the base.
Not the GPS alone.
Huh?
You figured it would have a GPS in it alone that would distinguish.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
And let me just say something else, again, as a layman here. We have watched the last 20 years the deterioration
absolutely
of our military. In terms of morale, we've got now, they're open to all kind of.
The Navy it just released yesterday, or the day before, the lowering of the standard to get into the Navy.
They lowered it?
They lowered it again. I don't know how many times this is, but it's again. So far, they're not even requiring you to finish high school or get your GED.
Okay, and then the physical
That's a different. Yeah, that in addition to.
Yeah, because so we've warned this will eventually show up on the
Of
battlefield.
course, the DEI or DE.
The
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe this is a sign of that. Hey, joining us is a fella who is a Navy veteran, by the way, Dr. Frank Turek. He joins us most Tuesdays. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, gentlemen.
All right, comment on what we're commenting about as a Navy veteran.
Well, I would think that the drone would squawk some sort of code that would allow us to know what it is.
That's
There's
what
gotta
I'm
be
saying.
some-
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't know the details. You know, the fog of war, you don't know. Maybe somebody overlooked something, or maybe this drone somehow was squawking our code. Who knows?
Right.
But with regard to the lowering of the standards, the Navy and the other services, other than the Marines, can't keep up with their recruiting goals. And look, when the new Secretary of the Navy came in under Biden, he had 4 C's that were his goals for his administration. All begin with the letter C. China was number 1. Okay, we can understand we got to be ready for China. But the other 3, I can't remember all of them, but one of them was COVID and the other was climate change. Climate change. What? You're the United States Navy. What do you have to do with climate change? All this PC nonsense. No wonder nobody wants to join the service anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with protecting the country. Climate change? COVID? Really?
Yeah.
And by the way, if there's any organization that has zero to do with equity, it's the military. Why do we have a rank system? It has nothing to do with equity. It has to do with merit. You're supposed to have certain qualifications to do certain things. If you don't, people could die and the country is left unsafe. Equity has no business being anywhere close to any military, much less the United States military. Equity is everyone gets the same thing. No, you have to earn your way to a particular rank based on your performance, based on your qualifications, based on not being like everybody else, but exceeding what other people do.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Well, you're right. Except for the United States Marine Corps, the Navy, Army, and the Air Force, and I guess the Coast Guard too. I'm not sure. And there's something called Space Force too, which, but anyway, those other branches of the military, particularly Army, Navy, and Air Force, are way down in their recruiting numbers, as Frank mentioned. That's been widely reported. And I think, Frank, a lot of it is people who would have otherwise encouraged their sons and daughters to go into the military are not doing that anymore because of the reasons. Some of the reasons you just mentioned.
Sure, you may be bunking with a transgendered person or someone who's same-sex attracted.
Yeah.
Or you've got to put up with all
in a submarine.
You've got to put up with all sorts of diversity, inclusion, and equity nonsense, which is not a road to excellence. It's a road to decreasing the standards, as Wesley was already saying. In fact, I heard a little bit by Rob Schneider. He used to be on Saturday Night Live years ago. This has even infected the airlines. And he did this little comedy bit where he said, did you hear United Airlines came out and said that they're going to make sure that 50% of their pilots by such and such a date are going to be minorities? And he said, I'm so happy for that because I am sick and tired of these white pilots landing safely and on time.
Oh man! I saw a Babylon Bee the other day. A satire site said that you can now pay extra for a 55-year-old guy named Steve to fly you. If you want that kind of pilot, then you can pay a little extra for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. What did you cover last weekend on Cross-Examined Radio?
we covered The Deconstruction of Christianity, a new book written by my colleague Elisa Childers and Tim Barnett. I'm sure you familiar with so many people on the internet now saying that, we used to be Christians, but now we're not. We're progressive Christians, which is not progressive or Christian, because if you're disagreeing with Jesus, you're not progressing, you're regressing. And if you're disagreeing with Jesus, you're not Christian either. Anyway, they came out with this new book, The Deconstruction of Christianity, what it is, why it's destructive, and how to respond. And so we talked about that. And it turns out, Tim, as you well know, that these people who actually are saying that Christianity is wrong, or Christianity, I've left, I'm an ex-evangelical now. You've probably heard that hashtag ex-evangelical. These people are not really interested in truth. They're not interested in theology. They're interested in meology. Whatever I want, that's what I'm going to believe. Not what's true, but whatever I want to believe, I'm just going to believe. And yet, at the same time, they're going to say, you, Tim Wildman, what you believe is wrong, although they can't give you any evidence as to why what you believe is wrong. And it's not really a truth quest for them either. It has to do with their tastes. They don't like the God of the Bible. They don't like substitutionary atonement. They don't like Christian conservative politics. It has nothing to do with truth. It just has to do with, we don't like it. Well, fine. There's a lot of things I don't like as well, but that doesn't mean that what I don't like is false. There are many things I don't like, but what I don't like can still be true.
What's the name of the book? And then Wesley has a question, then Ray.
Yeah, that book is called The Deconstruction of Christianity. Just came out. Well, it's coming out tomorrow, actually, or it just came out yesterday.
Can you get it at your Can you get it at your website, or where?
You can get it at Amazon, or wherever you get fine books. And if you go to a bookstore and it's not there, it's just sold out again.
I love it. Nice. Is it really selling that well?
Yeah, it's up in the top like 500 or 600 books on Amazon.
Who's the author? Who's the author?
Elisa Childers and Tim Barnett.
Wonderful.
Two apologists.
We mentioned yesterday on the program when we had Stephen McDowell on. I mentioned a book, a Bible study that I've done from him on the importance of the Ten Commandments, and then I mentioned yesterday that everyone benefits from the Ten Commandments, whether you are a Christian or non-Christian. That everyone benefits from not stealing, everyone benefits from not committing adultery, everyone benefits from not lying, and so when you think about the Christian faith and how everyone, the inherent teaching from Scripture, from Genesis, Revelation, everyone benefits from it. Why is it that you have people go into, this is just one of many examples, into like the Methodist Church and spend 2-3 decades trying to destroy it from within, and then talk about how bad Christianity is? Why is it so much attacked when in essence many people benefit from it, whether you agree with it or not? Why is it trying to, the progressive Christianity that you mentioned? Why do people spend their lives, their money, their time, their resources trying to tear it apart? Well, my point is, if you don't agree with it, just move on to another religion.
Yeah, well, they would probably say that they think Christianity is going to be detrimental to their personal lives. That, you Christians are going to get political power. You're going to outlaw abortion, and we can't have that. That kind of thing.
Okay.
It turns out to be political. In fact, yesterday I was talking to a gentleman who was saying that his friend isn't a Christian anymore because he doesn't like Christian support for Trump. And so I said, Christianity was true long before Trump ever existed. I mean, just because Christians vote a certain way, that is not the litmus test for whether or not Christianity is true. I mean, if you're leaving Christianity because you don't like how Christians vote, then you were never a true Christian anyway. I'm not a Christian because I want to vote a certain way. I'm a Christian because I think Christianity is true. I think God exists and Jesus rose from the dead. So how people vote is irrelevant to whether or not Christianity is true. It's true independent of how people vote. Now, if it is true, we ought to vote in a way that is biblical, and certainly life is a biblical issue, and so is marriage, and so is religious freedom. So we ought to vote for people that are going to support life, marriage, and religious freedom, and other issues as well. But that's just a result of Christianity being true. It's not the cause of Christianity being true.
Ray?
Frank, you've raised a really interesting question here about why people, quote, deconstruct from the Christian faith. I think maybe sometimes from our side, we think, well, it's the global flood and they can't believe in that, or did the walls of Jericho really fall down? Or
Yes,
how'd that
they
axe
did.
head float? Some miracle story in the Bible that they can't believe. But I think what you're suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, that many times it's a moral issue. They do not want the God of the Bible telling them what to do, what not to do. Let me make it more specific. They don't want a God who tells them, no, you're not to sleep with your girlfriend. No, you're not to engage in that kind of immoral behavior. And so they walk away, but they blame it on the global flood or the walls of Jericho, but that's not really the issue at all. Am I reading that correctly?
Oh, I think you are, Ray. And that's why I always ask people on a college campus. And by the way, tomorrow night, Lord willing, I'll be at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're doing I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And it will also be on our YouTube channel and our website, crossexamine.org. This is why I ask unbelievers when they get up to the microphone, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And many times, Ray, they'll say no. And I'll say, how's that reasonable? Well, it's not reasonable. It has nothing to do with the head. It has everything to do with the heart. They don't want it to be true. They don't want there to be a God. Why? Because they want to be God over their own lives. They're not on a truth quest or on a happiness quest. And so they're just going to believe whatever they think is going to make them happy. Now, here's the problem. You can make yourself happy over the short term, doing a lot of fun, but selfish and sinful things. Yet over the long term, it's a disaster. And everyone listening to us now who's over 40 years old knows what we're talking about, because many of us have tried it ourselves, right? I'm going to live just for me. No, you're not very long, right? You start living for you too much. Who's going to put up with that? You're going to wind up divorced, broken, addicted, alone, and probably prematurely dead. Because if life is all about you and your whims and your impulses, you're not going to last very long, and people aren't going to put up with that.
Amen, brother. What's the answer then, Frank? What's the answer? What's the medicine for the selfish, self-destructive behavior?
Well, if I was in Sunday school, I'd say Jesus. It's true. But I think it's asking questions, Tim. In today's society, you got to ask a lot of questions. You know, why do you believe that? Why do you think that's true? What evidence do you have for that position? If it really were true, would you become a Christian? Or you could put it a different way. You could say, if Jesus really predicted and accomplished his own resurrection from the dead to prove he was God, would you follow him? Because when you put it that way, then people go, well, I kind of do like Jesus. And if he really is God, I would follow him. But so many people are not interested in that. In fact, let's do a little thought experiment with our audience right now. Audience, those listening to the American Family Radio Network right now, I want you to think of somebody you know who's not a Christian whom you'd like to be a Christian. A friend, relative, somebody like that. Got someone? Okay, here's my question. Is the person you're thinking of on a relentless pursuit of truth? They want to know if Christianity is true, or are they apathetic or maybe even hostile to Christianity? Whenever I ask that question, Tim, before a live audience, it's normally 100-0 or 99-1 that people are apathetic or hostile. Most people are looking for God like a criminal's looking for a cop. They're running. They don't want it to be true. They want to go their own way. So what do you do for people like that? You love them, which doesn't mean you approve of everything they do. You pray for them. You plant seeds when you can as to why their worldview is wrong and Christianity's worldview is true. And then you wait. Why do you wait? Because sometimes people only look up when they're on their back. When tragedy strikes, they're not going to call their atheist friend. What's the atheist friend going to say? Well, there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. Stuff just happens. No, they're going to call you a person of spiritual depth. When the student is ready, he will summon the teacher. So pray, plant seeds, love them, and wait.
Amen. Well, we're talking to Dr. Frank Turek. He hosts the radio program Cross Examined each weekend here on American Family Radio. And that's Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Time here on AFR. What time is it on Sunday?
I think it's on 4 p.m. Central, isn't it, Tim?
4 o'clock Central Time
Yeah.
on Sunday afternoons. Usually that's probably whole 12 for me. When it's warm.
When it's warm, that's right. When it's
All right,
sunny.
Frank, have a good day, my friend. Thank you for being on with us.
God bless you guys. See you later.
Thank
All right, that's Dr. Frank Turek. We'll be back with more of today's issues momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
There is in the book of Romans a sentence which reads like this: For we know that in all things God works for good with those who love him, those whom he has called according to his purpose. Now, are those just some fancy-sounding words Paul is using? Is this just some good prose? Or are they true? Does God work for good in everything with those who love him? Does God use even the bad things that happen to those who love him when he's working for good? I feel we need a little background on Paul before we can get his statement in proper perspective. You see, he had been a Christian for 22 years. He was making preparations to go to Spain. That was his heart's desire. History would record that he got only as far as a Roman jail cell. Paul had suffered much prior to penning these words. 5 times he had been whipped with 39 lashes from a leather whip tipped with metal. He had been beaten with rods 3 times. He had been stoned once, left for dead. He had been in 3 shipwrecks. He had suffered from heavy toil and hardship and had spent many sleepless nights and who knows how long in jail. After suffering all of this and more, Paul wrote that God works for good in everything with those who love him. At least Paul was speaking with plenty of experience. And you can put this down: Paul believed what he wrote. But back to the original question. Does God work for good in everything with those who love him? Events in the life of Christ add validity to Paul's statement. For we are told that God took mankind's most evil and unjust act, the crucifixion, and worked good through it. After a study of the evidence available, one comes to the conclusion that Christ shared this belief with Paul, that God works for good in everything with those who love him. Does God work for good in everything? May I share with you a personal experience? Back when I started preaching, I served a little rural church. Since the church couldn't pay much, Linda taught school to help pay our bills. We gave very liberally to the little church, probably more than any other family. We thought nothing about it. We did it because we wanted to do it. When Linda had to give up her teaching because of pregnancy, we cut our expenses every way we could. I was in seminary then. And the bills seemed just to keep piling up. In order to help pay our hospital bill, I did something I had never done before or since. I asked the church to raise my salary $20 a month for 4 months. I explained that the money was needed to help meet our hospital expense. There was sufficient money in the church treasury to meet the request without affecting the church finances. But the church denied my request. I can recall that as I heard the decision that night, that it just didn't make sense. We had worked so hard for that little church, given so generously when we could. Now, when we needed just a little help, the church said no. You know, I can remember that I was unable to finish my sermon that night. For the first time in my life, I cried in a church. I could not hold back the tears. I was deeply hurt. But God worked good from that, for I learned how to be a little more loving and kind, a little more understanding and helpful. Because of that deep hurt, I know something of what the other fellow feels when he hurts. And, perhaps, I learned a little of the hurt in the heart of God when we say no to Him. Does God work for good in everything? I believe He does. I believe that even in our disappointments and heartbreaks, God is working for our good.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and He knows those who take refuge in Him. Nahum 1, verse 7.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Wesley, Chris, and Ray, we thank you for listening to AFR. If you want to send us an email, the address is comments@afr.net. Comments@afr.net is our email address. Any comments you write need to be K-Love comments.
Yeah. Make them positive. Make them positive.
Positive and encouraging. You need to be positive and encouraging.
Otherwise, we don't hear you.
Yeah, well, it brings us down.
That's right. It's a downer. That's right. It's a real downer.
Tim, Tim this, Tim that. And
Well, the good news is eventually the 2024 election will be over and then you'll be in the clear.
yeah. Well, a lot
It's
of
a long year. It's a long way to go.
You know,
That's true.
I
That
did.
is true.
Hey, listen.
That's
I said, yes. Do you want to bring this up? I've been critical of former President Trump, some of his behavior and words and things that he says and does. Yes, that is a true statement. But I never said I wouldn't vote for him
Sure.
in November.
Sure.
Okay, so I never said that, nor would I encourage anybody not to vote for the best candidate out there when it comes to the presidential or any other race for that matter. Everybody has to decide who their best candidate is and then go vote and participate in the process and be a part of making a difference. Is that what you're talking about, Wesley?
That is it.
Is that you take calls for?
That was the no
You take calls from. You've taken some calls
from donors and
from
listeners
donors
and
on my behalf.
Sure.
Said, but that Tim needs to back off on his criticism of Trump. Is that what you?
Oh, that's way too specific. But
Huh?
yes. Well,
Okay. Well, I haven't said anything about President Trump in like a week.
yeah, it's been a
10
whole
days.
week. That's right. Yeah. No. Yes. So that's sort of what I'm talking about. But yeah. But
Are there other things?
well, just I mean.
I don't want to hear it.
Well, I'm just saying the 2024 election in general is controversial and obviously
Not a perfect world.
not a perfect world, and there's a lot of things that you have to
Not a
consider.
perfect world. No
And
perfect
so-
candidates. Jesus is not on the ballot, right?
He is not.
That's right. Jesus is not running. He is not running for anything.
Right.
He's King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Right. All right. So you're listening to today's issues. Well, friend of ours who's doing everything he can and the Family Research Council can do to represent our values in our nation's capital. Tony Perkins is on the phone with us. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Tim. I'm calling in to say how much I love to hear your Mississippi accent. It is so encouraging to me to hear you on the airway.
Thank you, Tony. It's nice to be appreciated.
He is from next door.
You know,
That's right.
so, are you in Baton Rouge or are you in Washington today?
No, I'm up here in the swamp. Let me rephrase that. I'm not in the Louisiana swamp. I'm in the D.C. swamp.
There you go.
Okay, there you go.
That ought to be the intro for your show. To Tony, who's
Well, I'm
not
glad he clarified because I did think he was
not
in
in
Louisiana
the
swamp.
Today he's in Louisiana swamp. Tomorrow he'll be in the Washington
DC swamp. Yeah.
All right, so you're in Washington D.C. Tony, you guys, Family Research Council has been around a long time now. How long have you guys been there working in D.C.?
40. We're on our 41st year.
Wow. Well, that's, we started in 77, so it wasn't too long after that Family Research started. And you've been president how long?
I'm on my 21st year.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Okay, so Tony, the biggest news story nationally has been the border situation, and the Republicans finally, I think, have had it. Not going to take it anymore, and going to do something about it. Led by Governor Abbott of Texas, he's taken a firm stand against Biden and the administration, letting millions and millions and millions of people in here. We don't know who they are, where they're from. Well, we do in some cases, and it's very dangerous to learn where they're from. We've captured a lot of, we've stopped a lot of terrorists, would-be terrorists, but there are many who've come here and we don't know where they are. But my point is, there is would you comment on the border situation in general, and then talk about what the Republicans are trying to do legislatively to deal with this, or should they have to do anything? Go ahead.
Well, I think you're right that this has come to a point where the Republicans are ready to deal with it. But let me step back as to why they're here and why they're ready to deal with it. It's because the public has weighed in. And that in part is because of what, as you mentioned, Governor Abbott. I was talking with the Lieutenant Governor of Texas yesterday, Dan Patrick. And by Texas and Governor DeSantis as well in Florida, really being innovative in going on the offense over the last year and a half by helping transport migrants to some of these sanctuary cities who had, they were all about sanctuary cities until people actually took them up to be sanctuary cities. It's like, it's kind of amusing to watch, the governor or Mayor Adams of New York and some of these others. It's like having a homeless shelter, but getting angry when the homeless people show up. I mean, they have these sanctuary cities and they get angry when people actually take them at their word. But that is exposed what's going on here. And the American people have said enough. I mean, a poll out last week by Harvard Harris, 77% of all Americans, Democrats included, believe Biden should negotiate with the Republicans over what's going to be required to secure the border. So the leverage is in the hands of the Republicans. And what they want is the House wants to see the provisions of H.R. 2, which was a border security bill, which they passed and has been languishing in the Senate for months. They want to see that attached to the supplemental bill. Now, as we've been watching in the last several weeks, there's been these bipartisan negotiations in the Senate, and the Republicans, in defense of my friend James Langford, he's simply been trying to get some agreement in the Senate to get a bill over to the House so then the House can do something with it. The House was never going to take the Senate bill at face value, but they have to have an instrument, a tool to work with. And so that's what we're waiting on to see what is going to be the measure that is going to provide the showdown over the border.
Okay, let me ask you this, Tony. What would you say to a person who says the President of the United States has the full authority to close down the border today? He doesn't need any further legislation to do that.
Correct.
What would you say to that person?
Correct. Correct. That's exactly what Donald Trump did. I went to the border multiple times. I went down there in the first year and a half, 2 years of the Trump administration. He had a hard time getting the right person in control of Homeland Security to get that border secure. And he finally got Chad Wolf and others, and they secured the border. His remain in Mexico policy worked. The last time I was at the border in his last year, the border was like a ghost town. I mean, people weren't coming across because he had secured the border. It wasn't because Congress did anything. He did it. So Joe Biden could secure the border if he wanted to.
Well, in fact, while Joe Biden, the president right now, is out talking about if the Republicans / Congress will send me a bill, I will shut down illegal immigration tomorrow. That's what he keeps saying. Let me remind everybody, as if our listeners need reminding, the day Biden took office in January of, when was that, 2022? the day, no, 20, excuse me. Was that 2021?
2021, January.
Okay, January 2021. The day he took office, he eliminated all of Trump's enforcement mechanisms, the things that Trump had in place that Tony's talking about.
Orders.
He eliminated it totally, and he invited a surge. And he was snickering when they were telling him. Well, he said, "Well, I guess people who are coming here just think I'm nice." It was kind of nutty, but anyway, okay. So Tony, if in fact the Biden doesn't need any legislation to do the right thing and to shut down the border, control the border, why are the Republicans like James Langford from Oklahoma, and I'm assuming Mike Johnson, the House Representatives, the Speaker of the House, also a good personal friend of yours. What are they doing? Why are they negotiating with the Democrats when Biden doesn't need any more authority?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, it's because the president is not doing it. So, and that was by executive order. It was by what Donald Trump did. He did by his own initiative, not by the law. So what they're trying to do is actually pass the law into statute, say this is required. This is what we shall do at the border.
Well, then this is Wesley here. So then, what exactly can we expect from the bill? That is it HR2, and they're trying to combine that with what?
See, HR2 was the House bill that was sent over probably 6 months ago.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact time, but the Senate scare leader, Chuck Schumer, will not bring it up for a vote. So he's just been sitting on it, just like the bill that the House passed to provide funding for Israel. They have not moved that, which is a part of the supplemental. The House Republicans wanted to split that off so that it doesn't get caught up in that big supplemental, which is the $60+ billion going to Ukraine, which a lot of conservatives are concerned about. So what the House wanted to do was attach the provisions of HR2, which would secure the border in statute, provide. And it's not the same thing that Biden was asking for in his supplemental for the board. What he was looking for, an additional $13 million, I think roughly, and $1 billion in funding for the border, was for expansion of courts, facilitating actually people coming into the country illegally. That's not what the Republicans are trying to do. They're trying to stop the flow coming into the country illegally.
But one other thing, do you think that the House of Representatives will impeach Mayorkas, the Homeland Security guy?
That is hard to say. I think so, but let me give you this caveat. I mean, I am close friends with the Speaker, and I mean, he has a 1-seat margin effectively with some.
That's it.
Members that are out.
A 1-seat margin. It was 5 or 6. What happened to?
They got rid of Santos.
Well, you've had some. You've had some retirements. You had Santos was removed. You've had
Kevin McCarthy.
Bill Johnson just retired. Kevin McCarthy, and then you have Steve Scalise, who is actually out. He had stem cell treatment for cancer, so he's out until a couple more weeks. Hal Rogers, actually the longest-serving member of the Congress, was in an accident, and he is not in. So what you have is when you're working with 440-plus people, 1 or 2 people are out on any given day. And so it is the thinnest margin in history for a majority in modern history in Congress. So it's very difficult. And then you have the Republicans, you probably picked up on this, they're not monolithic. They don't all think the same.
Right.
You've got some that are barely Republicans, all the way over to the Freedom Caucus guys, and trying to get them all together, singing off the same sheet of music. Well, it's kind of like a Baptist choir. It just doesn't always work.
A choir without its tenor is like a star without its glimmer.
Hey, Ray, you got a question for Tony before we let him go?
Yeah, Tony, there's a strange situation in Oklahoma about the senator where the Republican Party has censured, I don't know if that's the right word, or condemned, the senator from their own party in their own state. Yeah, Langford. What's their beef with their own senator?
Well, I think it is a part of understanding of the process. James, I know James very well. And he is a solid, not only is he a solid conservative, he's a solid believer. He understands the need to secure the border. What he's trying to arrive at is, and I've talked to him about this through the process, he's simply trying to reach an agreement with the Democrats, not that will become the law, but to get a measure in motion that then maybe the House can deal with. So, I mean, it's part of it is just not understanding what the process is, but it also reveals, and this is something we all need to be mindful of. This is a good thing. People now are really paying attention to this immigration issue, and it's about time because we've got 8+ million immigrants in this country illegally. That's the ones we know about, or more, and we cannot sustain this. I mean, we simply can't. We cannot maintain our country as it is by allowing this type of unregulated immigration, illegal immigration.
Yeah, we're talking to Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council. You can catch Tony each afternoon here on American Family Radio, weekday afternoons from 4 to 5 o'clock Central Time with Washington Watch, and you can stay up to speed on what's happening in our nation's capital, in the Congress. Let me ask you this, Chris, but based on what Tony was just saying, we had in our meeting this morning, I had the statistic among the general public. You have that in front of you regarding the
I do.
Okay, go ahead and quote that.
This is from Paul Bedard at the Washington Examiner, and the headline of Paul's article is "Voters Back Texas Border Wall Feel Biden Starting Another Civil War." Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but go ahead and read the first paragraph.
All right. Well, 69% of likely 2024 voters said that they support the border wall and razor wire fence that Abbott has ordered. 51% said they strongly back Texas in its fight to stop illegal immigration and the surge of so-called getaways getting past federal border agents.
My point is, Tony, and to your point that you just made, is this is an issue now, this massive illegal immigration into our country that has caught the attention. It's reached critical mass, and it's caught the attention of the general public, not just conservative media or people like us talking about it. It's caught the attention of the general public. It's the number one issue now. So you're right. And 60. What did you say? What 69%?
69% of likely voters
support Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
They support the border wall at razor wire. 51% they strongly back Texas in the fight against Biden over illegal immigration.
So, Tony, this is going to be a big issue going forward this year.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, in the Iowa caucuses, the exit polling, it was the number one issue, followed by the issue of inflation and the economy.
Right.
So this is the first time we've seen it rise to this level. So it will be a defining issue. And again, once again, we have a contrast between the two major political parties in this country on this issue. So when you go into the ballot box, and we're going to have more and more states coming up for the primaries, look, don't focus on the personalities, focus on the policies. It's real clear.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it, man. Have a good day. We look forward to this show this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, I look forward to being back there in Tupelo real soon.
Hey, you come see us, man. We welcome you here.
All right.
We got the possum on the stove.
And southern accent.
Can't wait for the roadkill.
Okay. All right, thanks, Tony. It's Tony Perkins. I find it a little bit amusing when people from Louisiana make fun of people from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of food, Ray.
Right. Got the possum on the stove. I never heard that one
that's
before.
what some people think. You know, they watch too much Beverly Hillbillies and think that's what people do in Mississippi. Even though the Beverly Hillbillies were from Tennessee, right? Arkansas?
No, we cook some.
They're from Arkansas, right?
No, we cook some very fine venison back straps.
Yes.
Tenderloin.
I do enjoy gizzards.
Now you're
Those
talking
are good.
good food.
Gas station chicken. Anybody that's never been to the great state of Mississippi, hit me up. I will recommend a number of great gas station chicken places. I'm writing a coffee table book in my off time, which in an election year is few and far between.
Ray, you grew up in Alabama. You know about these things. Go ahead.
Gas station chicken, gas station barbecue.
Yes.
Gas station chicken biscuits in the morning, right? You don't have to go anywhere. Fine dining is
No,
the
but
local
there
gas
is
station.
good gas station food, and there's bad gas station food.
Yes, that's true.
And
Right.
you only have to
You need to know the
experience it
difference.
once. Yep, that's right.
There's a DG somewhere with some Peptol you can get.
Fellas,
That's right.
I'm just not a big fan of gas station food, period, myself. I'm a little bit more refined.
There's actually a guy on
I guess.
Facebook.
A plate lunch?
Yeah, some
you
guy on
fellas.
Facebook goes around to like the little small towns throughout Mississippi, and he like eats their gas station food.
Oh, yeah.
And he does like a review.
I'm sure there's excellent gas station food out there.
We're calling it gas station food, but it's a plate lunch. They're primarily known for their food. They just happen to sell gas.
Not everybody has a Buc-ee's.
That's right.
You know?
Okay.
That's right. Listen, if you're from North Dakota, you have no idea what we're talking about, right? Just come on down. Just come on down and see for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So that was our good friend Tony Perkins. We got about 3 minutes left here, Chris.
Yes.
Well,
Man, I
in
mean,
this hour, is there anything?
Yes, I will do this.
You do that.
Not the moment that Rachel Maddow saw coming on a live television program, but Rachel
Just saw her
Maddow
face.
last night had E. Jean Carroll on to discuss what E. Jean Carroll is going to do with her millions of dollars that she's been awarded from Donald Trump. And Rachel Maddow specifically asks E. Jean Carroll what you're going to do with the money to help women's rights. Listen to what E. Jean Carroll had to say, followed by her attorney at the very end. Clip 8.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No?
That's all I need to hear to that.
I have shared a link to this in the Facebook section. I'm not making it up.
Rachel Maddow, I don't know if you could hear in the midst of all that, she said, no. She
Yeah.
basically stopped.
That didn't work out the way she wanted.
No.
Was that her or her lawyer?
Both.
That was E. Jean at the beginning.
EG at the beginning, but
The Bee Gees.
E. Jean Carroll.
Carroll.
E. Jean Carroll.
I watched
That's
that.
Staying alive.
I watched
Go ahead.
that video earlier this morning, and Rachel Maddow, her face is almost red, and she's shaking, looking down like
You didn't need to say that.
This
That
was
not the answer you should have given.
No, she had no way of hiding it either. So
Now, I will not share, I will not play this clip because it involved some words, so viewer discretion is advised. But it was actually the second black eye, if you will, for MSNBC last night because in a hot mic moment, Joy Reid went on to say something bad about Joe Biden getting us involved in another war with Iran.
Yeah. Was it she used ugly words? Or
She
something?
did. Things I can't play, nor will I on AFR.
Well, listen, in all seriousness, I can't remember a time in the last 10 to 20 years where there are so many hot spots around the world right now that
could lead to World War III.
Well,
Could.
I mean, I don't think
We're not
that
already
anybody
beginning.
looking at what's going on. It's a very tenuous, dangerous time in which we live. All right, we're going to take a short time out right here. We'll be back with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. We do have some good news coming up in 5 minutes. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Dr. Travis was a man that was full of life.
Bert Harper of Exploring the Word.
He loved the Word of God, and it came across in the classroom. Dr. Travis put in my heart a desire to know God through His Word. And that's what we're trying to do on Exploring the Word.
Exploring the Word, weekday afternoons at 3 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Peel. House Republicans are trying to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Chad Pergram reports from Capitol Hill.
You always hear this phrase, high crimes and misdemeanors. That is the standard for impeachment. It applies to presidents. It applies to members of the cabinet and federal judges. Today, we have a member of the cabinet. Now, keep in mind that no living American has ever seen a member of the cabinet held to high crimes and misdemeanors as it pertains to impeachment. That's in the Constitution. William Belknap, the Secretary of War, was the last one. That was in 1876.
Independent 2024 presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. explains how he believes the Biden administration has caused the surge of migrants at the southern border to get out of hand.
It's astonishing that the Border Patrol is utterly demoralized. You could stop this very quickly, and there doesn't seem to be any interest in the Biden administration doing it.
Republicans on Capitol Hill are calling for the Biden administration to take action after an Iran-backed group launched a deadly strike at a U.S. military facility in the Middle East. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton.
There has to be devastating military retaliation for the targeting of American troops in Jordan, a friendly nation, across international borders, leaving 3 dead Americans and more than 36 wounded.
The legal team for a South Carolina lawyer convicted of killing his wife and son are asking for a retrial. Jonathan Seri has more from the courthouse in Columbia, South Carolina.
Alec Murdaugh's lawyers say they plan to appeal a judge's decision that denied their client a new murder trial. Gene Toll determined clerk of court Becky Hill's alleged conversations with jurors during the trial did not influence their deliberations, which held Murdaugh responsible for the fatal shootings of his wife and son.
I simply do not believe that the authority of our South Carolina Supreme Court requires a new trial.
Murdaugh's legal team claims Hill pushed for a guilty verdict because she thought it would boost profits from a book she was co-authoring. In Columbia, South Carolina, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
Students in higher education who become pregnant would be protected under a proposed bill in Congress. Charlie Butts reports.
Congresswoman Ashley Hinson of Iowa has introduced the Pregnant Students' Rights Act, which is passed in the House. Annie Mangione of the Association of Mature American Citizens Action tells AFN it's a bill his organization fully supports.
AMAC and AMAC Action, we are strong supporters of life, from conception until natural death. And we saw this as an opportunity to support legislation to protect life, particularly with young women.
If passed, colleges and universities would have to provide female students with their rights and resources available in the community should they become pregnant.
The information would afford young women the confidence and the security to continue their pregnancies full term, have the baby without fear of compromising their academic or professional prospects. The bill would just let people know that, your academic career or anything you were planning on doing after school, it doesn't go away simply because you become pregnant.
It's estimated that 30% of the nation's abortions are done on women of college age because they believe giving life to the baby would cost them by dropping out of school and dimming prospects for future employment. Passage of the measure would make a convincing argument they don't have to give up either in order to succeed and don't have to have an abortion.
Can a state really ban school bullying? Therese Crowley takes a look.
New Jersey has more than 30 state laws against school bullying, and yet a family of a 14-year-old girl charges her school district did nothing to stop the culture of violence at Central Regional High, leading to her death by suicide in her Bayville bedroom last year. The grieving father of Adriana Cook says school officials failed to protect the freshman from getting viciously beaten by a pack of girls in the school hallway, and then failed again when the pack attack was posted online, leading to a viral onslaught of social media hate. The suit charges the superintendent, who didn't call police, then defamed the family with statements both false and cruel, claiming Adriana's mom killed herself because her dad was having an affair and that Adriana was doing drugs. Therese Crowley, Fox News.
For American Family News, I'm Musty Pugh.
So for God to speak is for God to engage in self-revelation. We only know God because God has condescended to speak to us.
The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that answers many of the common objections about the Bible's reliability. The film equips believers to confidently base their lives on the power of God's Word. It's available at streaming.afa.net. Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues. We got 24 minutes and 45 seconds to go on the show today. Thanks for listening to American Family Radio. And we wish unto the listeners a warm day. I know it's going to be 65 degrees and sunshine where we are in Tupelo, Mississippi. Now we go to our weatherman in Kansas City, Ray Pritchard, who will tell us what it's like there.
Hey, the sun is shining.
55 maybe?
Not yet, but
Is it going to get there?
53. Yesterday, unbelievably, Tim, it got to 60 degrees. That's crazy for Kansas City in January. 53 today, but the sun is shining. We just had cloud cover for days and days and days, and I was climbing the walls myself. So it's nice to see the sun again. So we're happy here.
It's going to be 65 today in Tupelo, and so I told a couple of my grandsons, hey, let's go out and throw the baseball around.
Yep.
This afternoon.
Take advantage of the pretty sun and
get a little taste of spring. Spring will be here before you know it. Maybe when is it groundhog in Pennsylvania? Puxatawny Phil, when does he show up for his verdict? Right? You know when that is? February?
I don't know. I'm looking. Steve, do you know that?
You keep up with Puxatawny Phil.
I'll look it up. Yeah, I do. I was just thinking that we have to ask Chevy Chase.
That's Chase? Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. That's right. Groundhog Day.
February the 2nd.
Brent Creeley comes forward and says, February the 2nd, that's Puxatawny Phil will come out and say whether we have what is it he determines with his shadow?
2 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6 more weeks of winter, or spring comes quickly.
We don't believe in superstition here, though.
but science.
But groundhogs.
Sure, groundhogs are science. Is that what you're saying, Wesley?
February the 2nd is Friday.
Okay, what about this Farmer's Almanac thing here that's going? I keep hearing about the Farmer's Almanac, Farmer's Almanac.
They've been around forever. I mean, for a couple of 100 years, Tim. They've been
but how do they predict?
They do that long range forecast, right?
Well,
what do they base it on, though? I mean,
no different than the weatherman.
Yeah. Well, the weatherman have meteorologists and stuff. Do you mean?
I mean that they're wrong a lot.
Farmer's Almanac.
But they have some
people swear by it.
Yeah.
I downloaded it or bought it a year ago, and they have, for for these states 9 months in advance they have it, and they say it is a secret proprietary formula. So
it's kind of like KFC.
Very much 11 herbs and spices.
Okay, the secret family secret there, huh? All right, well, we'll see. What are you looking at, Steve? You looking at Farmer's Almanac?
I'm looking at science. I'm going to give this to you.
Okay. What do
What
do we got? Steve's scrolling on his cell phone, showing it to me.
Device used to find water.
Those are devices used to find water, and Steve has a golf club and a golf ball.
That's it.
There you go.
That's how you find water.
That's right.
Well,
for some people, it'll take them a couple minutes there.
Listen,
all golfers immediately understand.
That's right.
Do we ever? I just absolutely detest cold weather, and so
I thought you were about to say you detest finding water with a golf ball.
Well,
that too, though, right?
If it's warm, I can take a couple lost balls. But anyway, we hope spring is on the way, right? And it'll be here in.
Spring training is just around the corner.
Yeah,
right?
that's
right.
Spring training, baseball.
And since you asked, Dad, turkey season's around the corner too.
Turkey? When is that?
It's March 15th in Mississippi.
Okay, so you're a big turkey.
A big turkey. I'm a big hunter in general.
Yes, you are.
I keep up with all the seasons, and as my wife will remind me when I tell, hey, just 3 more days left of deer season. Well, what season's next?
Right.
That's right.
Used to that worked. Used to I could say, well, just a few more days left of the season. You know, I'm gonna get out here and go hunting. Now she's like, well, what's next?
Turkey hunting's from when to when?
March 15th to May 1st.
Okay.
March
about
15th.
6 weeks of turkey hunting.
There you go. And that's what I use. It's just 6 weeks.
Just 6 weeks, right? And then the next hunting season.
That's right.
Whatever the next animal is. Do you feel good about killing, Wesley? That's how that is.
They can put food on the table.
Some people might say, well, how do since Wesley is my oldest son, Walker's my youngest son. I have a daughter who's older than Wesley, but I didn't teach you to hunt. Your late grandfather taught you to hunt.
That's right. Mom, your wife, Allison's dad taught
you to hunt.
Taught me a lot.
To deer hunt.
Taught me how to deer hunt.
Now, who taught you how to turkey hunt?
My father-in-law.
Right.
Chelsea's dad. My wife. Right. My wife's dad taught me a lot about turkey hunting, and along with all hunting, you have someone to teach, and eventually you get out there and learn the rest of it.
I just have to ask a question then, Wesley. Showing my ignorance here. I understand deer hunting. How do you hunt a turkey? I'm asking seriously.
What's your question, Ray?
How do you hunt a turkey? I mean, is it bow and arrow? Is it gun?
You can use a bow. Some people do, but the majority, I would probably say 85 or 90% of people use a shotgun. But you can only use 2 weapons. You can only use a bow or a shotgun. And within the shotgun, you have 20 gauge.
What else would you use? A cannon?
Hand grenade?
I mean, like if you, I'm just being completely fair to our audience. I have no idea where people fall or people's knowledge of this. But in deer hunting, you would use. There's a variety of different types of rifles and primitive weapons you can use. So with turkey, it's a shotgun.
A shotgun, because you don't want to blow the whole animal up where you don't have anything left.
That's right. And there's a sport in it in which getting them in shotgun range is what the states and really the whole country allows you to do. A rifle, you can shoot up to 300, 400, 500 yards, and you lose the sport in it for a turkey.
You know, if deer hunting, if you wanted to give a deer, if you wanted to make it even, I think hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand,
that's it.
With a deer?
Give the deer a chance, yeah.
With a buck?
Or with the turkey.
I don't know. That too.
If you swing all the way over to as primitive as you can get, there are people that hunt deer with a spear.
Wow.
Hunt deer with a spear.
And the reason would be?
It was
challenge.
Yeah, but it was really no fun for me. I just it got discouraging. You know,
it did.
I chunked that spear, miss. Chunked that spear, miss.
A lot of missing for your first.
Anyway, so.
So March 15th, I'll give you a turkey report. We'll move on.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I'll go with you.
Okay.
I'll go watch you. I tell you what was fun, Ray. And Steve, and I know this has nothing to do with the end of the world stories that we're about to bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, but
we got good news first.
We do have good news first, but I tell you, you Wesley and Walker, my sons, you guys used to duck hunt a lot.
That's right.
So I would go with them. Every once in a while I'd go with them. I don't hunt, per se. I tell people, they say, well, do you hunt? And I say, no, I hunt. They
Biscuits and gravy.
You guys hunt ducks and deer, and I hunt birdies. Okay, so
on the golf course,
different kind of hunting.
Yeah,
but anyway,
you did go when we had good breakfast every time.
Yeah, free good hot breakfast, and I could go back to the truck and warm up. That's basically it's called weenie hunting, and that's where I fall into that. But I wanted to say, if you've ever been duck hunting and watched a Labrador Retriever go into the water and bring back the ducks, it's fascinating.
It is.
To watch. And we had a lab.
Yeah, we had a silver lab, Russ, for over 10 years. Well, that was Walker's
But y'all
dog.
would take him hunting. It wouldn't matter how cold it was. He would jump in that water. He'd go, I don't know,
100 yards
to get a duck and swim all the way back.
He found great satisfaction in bringing the duck back. And of course, there would be a reward at the end most of the time.
Those dogs won't tear up the bird in their mouth.
They have a gentle.
It's a soft.
It's a soft.
You know what? Have you ever seen this, Ray? You ever been out and seen this?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Of course,
it's for duck hunting, basically. Go ahead.
In addition to that, though, we taught him other types of hunting, and so we would take them quail hunting and dove hunting, and they would retrieve.
Labrador. Labradors are made for that. Labrador retrievers. That's why they're called that, right?
Yep, retrievers. Yep.
All right. So, listen, we have some good news to report, and joining us is our general manager, Jonathan. How you doing, brother Jonathan?
Good morning. Doing good.
So tell us, we had a campaign last couple of weeks, haven't we?
Yeah, so last couple of weeks we had our preborn campaign. This is the campaign that we do every year in January. We had to extend it to an extra week because the original week we were all snowed in here in Mississippi, so we didn't get to promote it as much as we'd like to. So anyway, over the last 2 weeks, we did our campaign for them. And preborn is basically they help with pregnancy clinics to help fund ultrasounds for expected mothers who are considering abortion. And so what we've done is we asked our listeners to help donate to sponsor an ultrasound for expected mothers. And our goal for those 2 weeks was 4,500 sponsored ultrasounds, and I'm happy to report that we sponsored 4,468 ultrasounds over the 2 weeks.
All right, hand clap for all our listeners. Again, what was the number of sponsored ultrasounds by our listeners?
4,468.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So, because it was $18, well, no, $28. $28 to buy one ultrasound.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And the great thing about this with preborn, and Dan Steiner, who's been on with us many times, is there's no overhead to this ministry, preborn. So every dollar that people gave toward these 4,000 plus ultrasounds that our listeners sponsored goes to support the ultrasound.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Because Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, because he has a separate way that he raises money for his costs. That way, that when we do these fundraisers like this, every dollar goes toward toward the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, awesome, man. We just want to applaud our listeners, thank our listeners, because they're the ones who called in and made the difference.
Right. That's exactly
right.
And
you know, also too, something to consider is that this should be a good. This is a testament of our listener support and our listenership. That while we have these major issues that we are asking you to be a part of, and there's a lot of difficult things that we cover on the radio, this is the heart of who we are at AFA and AFR, and the heart of our listenership, the compassion and the desire to help when there's a opportunity, and thankful for Dan Stein and his vision and his idea behind this, because who would have thought when he began this ministry that we would have the overturning of Roe versus Wade during our lifetime. I mean, that's been a complete shock. And so having a ministry like preborn post Roe versus Wade being overturned could not be a better fit.
Yeah, listen, you don't have to have laws passed. You don't have to have a Supreme Court decision, anything like this to do this. Mm-hmm. This directly saves babies' lives, and there's nothing that the pro-abortion groups can do about it.
That's right.
Amen. So there you go.
Yeah, and they also, preborn also...
it's a Christian ministry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
they share the gospel of Christ.
They share the gospel, yes. And one of the things that I read is they have had more than 80,000 women surrender their life to Christ just because of the witnessing that they do, on top of the ultrasounds that they do. So they're really impactful.
So we just came on here to say we met our goal, and our listeners helped provide, again, how many ultrasounds?
4,468.
That's just amazing.
It is amazing.
We have great listeners to American Family Radio, and that's American Family Radio supporting an outside ministry.
That's right.
And we do that oftentimes here, because we're about the cause and the mission, and sometimes that, we'll have our own share-a-thon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people know that we need money to exist and to keep going too, but we want to help the kingdom, and we want to help save unborn babies' lives, and be a testimony to these young ladies who are pregnant and thinking about an abortion. So praise the Lord. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Jonathan joining us here, and Wesley and Steve and Ray. All right, Steve, what do you got for us?
Wow, we got some tech stuff that's going on that's pretty awesomely fantastic, but doesn't come without its share of warning.
Awesomely fantastic.
Awesomely fantastic.
That's
Yeah.
a new one.
That's my
That's how I
editorial
describe
judgment on it. Yes.
I describe warm banana pudding right
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
Anyway.
That works. Elon Musk he has many companies, SpaceX and of course Tesla, but he also has a company called Neuralink, and Neuralink has been given permission to install the first brain implant. It's about the size of a stack of 5 coins. They put it inside your head, inside your brain, and it allows you, if it works correctly, to control devices with your thoughts. Just
I got a Scooby-Doo right there.
Right?
Huh?
Oh.
All right. Before people, when I first read this last night, I thought, this is the mark of the beast. This sounds like the mark of the beast, okay? It sounds like something that was described in the Bible. But then I stepped back. I said, number one, this may be technologically close to what the Bible describes, but this is the intent of this particular device, which is I would describe it as a pacemaker for the brain.
That's a good way
right?
to put it. I hadn't heard that, but yeah.
Elon Musk, I don't think Elon Musk is a believer, but he's not a bad guy. He believes in America and freedom and
brain implants.
But so he's obviously very, very, very intelligent, and he also doesn't have to make his house note
right
any longer. But so Ray, did you read about this?
I did, and this is a tremendous use of technology to help those, as Steve said, that somehow, through some miracle of technology, to turn brain waves into the ability to actually function outside the human body. For those who are suffering from any number of disorders, this is going to be this opens the door to cures that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we never thought possible. Could this technology be used someday in a malevolent way? Yes, it could. But at least for the usage that they're describing here, good. It's going to help a lot of people that we thought were unreachable or unhelpable.
Now, this is at its earliest stages, right, of implementation. In other words,
it's the first. They're one patient. They're trying. I think it's just one single patient, but yeah, it's the first. FDA has given them the ability to try it on a human.
That is amazing.
It defies awesomely fantastic.
Awesomely fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll watch. Ray, what is it? I don't want to. We get. I don't want
the mark of the beast, isn't that mandated?
Yeah, I want to
though?
ask you
That's
about
the
that.
difference.
What can we look for, Ray, when the time comes on Earth when the mark of the beast is being promoted? What does that look like?
It's going to be, and anything I say about the actual mark of the beast is speculative, okay?
Okay.
Because technology is moving so fast. But it is going to be some sort of mark or some sort of implanted device or some sort of you fill in the blank that's going to be on the forehead or the hand. And if you don't have it, you cannot buy or sell or engage in e-commerce at all. And it's going to be a requirement in the coming days, the days of the
kind of like a
tribulation.
COVID shot.
very, very similar.
In many ways. No,
emails go to Tim there.
Well, I just remember when everybody said you want to keep your job, you get a COVID shot. You remember that?
Right.
That would make Anthony Fauci.
Yeah,
be careful, Steve. Be careful, Steve. But
I'm following you.
But you're talking about.
We've all felt that what happened 3 years ago was a step toward authoritarianism.
Right.
We all felt that it was a step toward one step toward a worldwide economy that someday a malevolent person, a dictator, is going to control. So, yeah, I want everybody to know, we read the Bible, Revelation 13. It's literally true, friends. It is coming. And it will be some sort of technology. This thing, this Neuralink, is look, I'm glad what they're doing, Steve. I want to say clearly, we're glad they're helping people who were in basically a helpless condition.
Yeah.
But any technology that can be used for good can also be used for evil.
Yeah.
We've seen that in history.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is you don't shy away from the positives just because it could possibly bring the negatives.
Sure.
Put a fence around it. Write some rules and regulations. Isaac Asimov had his 3 rules for robots. Basically, you couldn't harm humans or all that kind of stuff. Fences you put around it. Good, you can use them for good, and then
the first thing I look at when it comes to anything like this is it's an option. As long as things are optional, then people can choose.
And not compulsory.
Yeah, right. Then people can choose to use it or not use it as it relates to the advancement of technology. When it's anything that becomes mandated, like shots, is where I get
draw the line.
I'll get a little bit more involved in that one,
right?
For sure, to say the least.
So anyway, that's Elon Musk.
Yep.
What does Elon Musk do in his spare time?
I
just wondered, does he have any hobbies
I
or
think
games?
he plays Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, isn't it?
I mean, the guy does SpaceLink, which is
SpaceX.
SpaceX, which is rockets. Then they have an internet connection up there called SpaceLink, I think, that he owns.
Maybe he has a tunneling company.
Tesla. What's a tunneling company?
He has a company that literally digs tunnels, like for subways and.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's
just on the side. He's got a tunnel.
Yeah.
Side gig.
No, side gig.
For Elon Musk.
And then he's got this Neuralink.
What is he?
Twitter,
is he 45? How old is he?
He's not very old.
He's
still the richest man in the world. He's one of them, right? He's up there.
Yeah, some of it was devalued because of
52.
He's 52.
52. It was devalued. So I don't know if he's still the richest man in the world right now or not.
He's in the top 5.
Yeah. Elon, he may be. He may still be the richest man in the world. Of course, he bought Twitter,
Yeah.
And he spent a lot of money on that. That's, as far as I know, not making money for him. I think he bought that just to say I'm for free speech.
Yep.
Right.
That was a good move for our movement.
Yeah.
For sure that he bought it.
He's kept his word.
Yep. Yeah. It's been a loser for him if he just wanted to look at it financially. But he said he bought Twitter because he believed in free speech and he saw what Twitter was doing to censor conservatives. Go ahead.
This is a list of the companies of the concerns that Elon Musk owns. SpaceX, which is launching rockets. Twitter. XAI, he's got a new company that does artificial intelligence that he's working on. The Boring Company, which is Boring, which is the one that does tunneling. Neuralink, which we just talked about. Zip2, which is no longer in business, the first enterprise he founded, an internet version of the Yellow Pages. OpenAI, he was behind some of that. Tesla. PayPal.
That's how he's
co-founder of PayPal.
I think that's how he made his money initially, PayPal, and then he parlayed that into these other companies.
How'd you like to be his brother, man? You're just like, how do you live up to that?
Well, I know, right? Well, the thing that's impressive about people like Elon Musk is like he made millions and millions off PayPal, right?
Sure.
Well, a lot of people would take that money and just retire. Mm-hmm. Just enjoy the good life, travel the world, whatever. But he took that money and then reinvested it into other projects that benefit mankind.
Mm-hmm.
But also, and you go, so his motivation for his life is not just getting rich.
Right.
If it was, he could stop right now. Right. But his motivation for living every day, Elon Musk, seems to me, is get up and see what I can do tomorrow.
There's a lot of things about Elon Musk, though, that I like. I'm not an Elon apologist. However, I have seen several interviews on his position on AI, in which shows that he's very aware.
He's warning about the dangers.
Yeah, he's very aware and conscientious of how things can be misused, and so he's trying to obviously make people aware of that.
We got to get that guy saved. Think what he could do for the kingdom.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
All right, Ray, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks to Wesley, the turkey deer duck hunter, to Steve Paisley Jordahl, who's rocking the Paisley shirt today, Brent Cooley, our producer, Tony Perkins, Frank Turek, Jonathan Coker. We hope that you have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Well, there's still time to get on board our tours of Washington, D.C. and Mount Vernon